Hey everyone, tonight is our 1000th show. In a different time, you could have expected an evening filled with celebrity guests and looks back at our funniest moments. Instead, it's a one-man extravaganza. I don't know, maybe at the end, celebrate, my kids will come out and say this has been a closer look. I guess you'll just have to stick around and find out. Anyway, the extravaganza must go on. President Trump's political standing is as weak as it's ever been, so he's decided to pin his hopes for a comeback on whining about polls and sticking up for the Confederacy. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. As his poll numbers continue to fall and he descends deeper into political desperation, President Trump is as fixated as ever on things he sees on TV that make him feel bad. Like, for example, a new CNN poll that puts his job approval rating at 38% and has him losing to Joe Biden by 14 points. Now, the president's job approval is tracked constantly, and especially in an election year, new polls come out all the time. So obsessing over any one poll is mostly a waste of time, which is exactly why Trump is doing it, because the guy loves to waste time. It's the only thing he's good at. His favorite sport takes 5 hours to play and makes drying paint look like a fireworks show. And when he's not golfing, he's glued to the TV, which might explain why his brain long ago melted into rice pudding. The human mind just wasn't built to withstand that much Hannity. Humans evolved from hunter-gatherers. Trump evolved from a Cro-Magnon who spent the day staring at a cave painting of an angrier Cro-Magnon. Just yesterday, Trump tweeted, "Incredible. Fox News just took congressional hearing off the air just prior to important witness statements. More like CNN, Fox is lost." He tweeted that at 10:56 a.m. on a Wednesday. Why are you watching TV at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday? Did you get furloughed and not tell anyone? The good news is I still have my health insurance and, all the money I stole. There are mass demonstrations in the streets against systemic racism. Police are beating peaceful protesters. A pandemic is still raging and tens of millions of people have lost their jobs. And the president is live tweeting cable news in the middle of a workday like a high school sophomore playing hooky from school. In fact, even a high school sophomore would know better than to tweet, "I pretended to be sick today so I could stay home and watch Price is Right," at Principal Sims. And now the president, who's obviously anxious about his political standing, apparently has so much free time on his hands that he's watching cable news and getting mad at polls.
Brand new CNN poll, hot off the press. It shows a huge drop in the president's approval rating in just 1 month, down 7 points. It also shows former Vice President Joe Biden opening up his biggest lead yet, 14 points over President Trump.
The Trump campaign is actually demanding that CNN retract and actually apologize for our recent poll that shows the president is trailing the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee, the former Vice President Joe Biden.
Why does that upset you? You were behind in the polls to Hillary Clinton, and now thanks to our dumb electoral college, you're president. You're not the hare, you're the tortoise, and your shell is like a bunker you retreat to. Not because you're scared, but because you're doing an inspection. This all started when Trump saw the poll and got so pissed he actually asked his pollster to debunk it, tweeting, "I've retained highly respected pollster McLaughlin and Associates to analyze today's CNN poll and others which I felt were fake based on the incredible enthusiasm we're receiving. Read analysis for yourself. This is the same thing they and the others did when we defeated crooked Hillary Clinton in 2016. They are called suppression polls and are put out to dampen enthusiasm." First of all, it must be the easiest thing in the world when Trump retains your services as a pollster to prove something is fake, because you could just give him a one-page printout that says he was right, and then if he asks if there's any data, you say, "Yeah, do you want to see it?" Knowing full well he'll just say, No, I trust you. I mean, I'd say it was free money, but then again, he never pays anyone, so serves you right for working for him, McLaughlin and Associates. Trump's political standing has eroded considerably over the past month, and he's in a weak position as any incumbent president has ever been in the history of modern polling. So Trump and his supporters in the GOP and on right-wing TV are resorting to the only two tactics they have left: amping up the racism and nursing deranged cultural grievances. For example, after the Army said they were considering renaming bases that had been named after Confederate leaders who were violent white supremacists and traitors, Trump lashed out on Twitter, and for some reason, his White House handed out physical copies of his statement to reporters in the press room.
The president is dismissing an idea under consideration by the Pentagon of renaming bases that honor Confederate officers.
Now, let me just tell you what happened in the last few minutes here to give you a sense of how this went down at the White House. The president, of course, just tweeted a few moments ago, and then they handed out a printout of the president's tweet. The press secretary came out and also read the president's tweet where he said, in part, these monumental and very powerful bases have become part of a great American heritage and a history of winning, victory, and freedom. He says, therefore, my administration will not even consider the renaming of these magnificent and fabled military installations.
Our history as the greatest nation in the world will not be tampered with. Respect our military. So that was directly from the president. We spent some time working on that.
I'm not sure that's something I necessarily brag about. It's one paragraph. From the looks of it, it's like a 14-size font. I've seen longer blurbs on book jackets. This is like the first draft of a college essay that's supposed to be 5 pages, and instead of writing more, you just jack up the spacing. Also, what do you mean they're part of a great American heritage and a history of winning, victory, and freedom? Confederates famously fought against America, and they lost. Since when do we name military bases after people who lost wars against America? Is there a naval base named after King George III? Would you make American soldiers train at Fort Il Duce? Also, I love this part. Magnificent and fabled military installations. Those bases are a lot of things, but they're not fabled. They're really there. We're not talking about an Aztec city of gold. Gather round and I'll tell you the tale of a fabled Fort Bragg, a charmless cluster of wooden buildings where men fall from the sky of wings of nylon. And by the way, not only were Confederate leaders slavers, traitors, and white supremacists, they were also Take General Braxton Bragg, for example. Bragg resigned from the Confederate Army after losing a decisive battle, and on top of that, Bragg was a jackass and an ass. Bragg had such a notoriously bad temper that Union General Ulysses S. Grant, in his memoirs, recalled a story of one of Bragg's superiors admonishing him. "My God, Mr. Bragg, you have quarreled with every officer in the Army, and now you're quarreling with yourself." No wonder Trump likes him. He was a racist psycho who liked to fight with people. They didn't have Twitter back then, but I'm guessing Bragg's telegrams would have been right up Trump's alley. "Dear General Grant, I have retained highly respected post of McLaughlin and Associates to analyze the results of the Civil War, which I felt were fake. Based on the incredible enthusiasm we are receiving, lying, Lincoln is a loser. Regards, General Bragg. P.S. I spent a good bit of time working on this." I listened to a lot of tapes to get that impression right. Trump probably likes him because he thinks he invented bragging. You know, before Braxton Bragg, you just had to hope people knew how rich you were without you telling them. It was a dark time. It was a very dark time. Also, it's worth noting that all these Confederate generals Trump is praising probably would have hated him. I mean, sure, he's also a racist, but there's no way they'd enjoy spending time with his New York City blowhard. If he was at one of their cotillions, Trump would have been glove-slapped every 5 minutes. "For the insult of your locker room talk, I challenge you to a duel at dawn, good sir." "Why can't do dawn tomorrow? I've already been challenged to a duel then. Does next Wednesday work?" So as he plummets in the polls, Trump thinks his ticket to a political resurgence is appealing directly to racists who idolize the white supremacist Confederacy, but he's clearly facing headwinds because even the cultural institutions you might think of as occupying the conservative end of the spectrum are dumping the Confederate symbols. The U.S. Navy has joined the Marines and moving to ban the Confederate battle flag, and even NASCAR is weighing in with a firm anti-Confederacy stance.
On Wednesday, NASCAR officially banned the Confederate flag from all events after a request from Bubba Wallace, the sport's lone black driver.
NASCAR announcing the flag runs contrary to our commitment to providing a welcoming and inclusive environment for all fans, and is now prohibited from all NASCAR events and properties effective immediately.
Oh my God, this can only mean one thing. NASCAR is Antifa. Next thing you know, they're going to start wearing helmets to hide their faces and attacking people with glass bottles. And I don't know much about NASCAR other than the fact that 38% of the drivers seem to be named Rusty, but that's an impressive step to take. I applaud you. And if some of your fans boo, maybe you can just drown them out by, I don't know, driving 50 cars, 200 miles per hour around a track. That might work. Anyway, I honestly can't even believe it's a question at this point whether or not we should be celebrating the symbols of an explicitly white supremacist cause like the Confederacy that fought to destroy the United States. And yet NASCAR is doing more to lead right now than the President of the United States, which has to be especially bruising for Trump because just a few months ago, he was the Grand Marshal at the Daytona 500, even taking a lap around the track in his presidential limo. So all he did was sit in the car while it drove around in a circle. Trump even finds ways to make sports lazy. That's the least impressive political appearance at a sporting event since Chris Christie was caught hugging Jerry Jones at a Cowboys game. Also, dude, you're from New Jersey. You have 2 semi-professional football teams. Just because they suck doesn't mean you get to pick another one. The Knicks suck, but you don't see Andrew Cuomo hanging out with the Toronto Raptor. The right's defense of Confederate symbols comes as protesters across the country have been taking down Confederate statues, like, for example, the statue of Confederate president and violent white supremacist traitor Jefferson Davis in Richmond on Wednesday. This morning, Trump once again defended Confederate symbols, scream-tweeting, in all caps, "Those that deny their history are doomed to repeat it." Of course, Trump probably most hates the removal of Confederate statues because he stands like a statue of Donald Trump that is currently being pulled down. I mean, seriously, look at that forward lean. All that's missing are protesters pulling on cables. If we could just get the chest out a little further past the toes, the whole thing will come down. And yet venerating the Confederacy isn't the only insane culture war issue the right has pinned their hopes on this week. Now that Trump has cratered the economy and utterly failed to contain a pandemic still raging across the country, all the right-wing weirdos on Fox News have left is to get mad at cartoons and Muppets.
HBO Max's Looney Tunes reboot is disarming some classic characters. What? Elmer Fudd's rifle is gone. No more.
Oh, no.
Yosemite Sam's 6 irons out.
He's
been disarmed.
Foot washing and now Fudd without the rifle. Okay,
well, it's virtue signaling.
Yeah, I'm bringing this sign to the protest at the community center later.
Oh, they look upset. Are the protesters sad?
They are sad and upset, and they have every right to be, Elmo. People are upset because racism is a huge problem in our country. Across the country, people of color, especially in the black community, are being treated unfairly because of how they look.
It's a children's show. Got that, Bobby? America is a very bad place, and it's your fault. So no matter what happens, no matter what they do to you when you grow up, you have no right to complain. That's the message, and it starts very young.
Think of how far you've fallen in life when you're mad at a Muppet. I mean, just steaming all day, barking at your producers, "Get me that footage of Elmo's dad, and look into Beaker too." He's awfully quiet. It's especially surprising that Tucker is mad at a children's show because for most of his career, he dressed like a child. You know, he always looked like the ring bearer at a Connecticut wedding. "Okay, Tucker, give them the rings. Tucker, come on, the rings. Oh my God, Tucker, did you eat the rings?" Oh, Tucker, we expected more from you. The conservative grift has been so thoroughly discredited by the failures of the Trump presidency that Fox has been reduced to yelling about children's cartoons and Muppets. And Trump, meanwhile, has pinned his hopes for a political resurgence on defending racist Confederate symbols. And when they decided on that strategy at the Trump campaign headquarters, I'm sure Trump went out of his way to brag that he
Spent some time working on that.
This has been a closer look. Happy birthday.
As New York struggles to reopen this week, remember that we are still a city in crisis, and City Harvest has been stepping up to meet the increased need. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, wash your hands. We love you.